Almost there. Almost there. While he's doing that, I want to thank him because he's the one that's basically doing all the navigation for Zoom and making sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. So he's kind of covering a dual role today. So be patient with him. He's coming. Okay, I guess you're ready now. I think I am. All right, it's in your hands. Couple things. Okay, I'm just trying to get my thing to show correctly. But okay, I think I'm good now. Real quick, if you don't mind if I pray, because I'm a little nervous. Lord God, we thank you for today and all that we've heard, and we thank you for our presenters. Lord God, we just ask that you please, I'd ask that you please use me for your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Okay, so what I've been tasked to talk about today is the virtual church. I know it's a little bit different than what we've been talking about today, but just bear with me. I hope that we'll all be able to get something out of it. All right, so first, I'm not really going to go into all the scripture references and stuff like that just because of the time, but just based on my little bit of research and thinking, just kind of the purpose of the church is, sorry, we got a bunch of people joining right now, look at me, is one, connecting the saints one to another, also equipping the saints. The local church is a community of believers who share a mutual belief in Christ, who share a mutual commitment to Christ, and who worship and fellowship together. And so that's pretty much, the purpose of the church is, as we know it, is equipping. So it's through the church. That's how we equip believers. And then also the importance of fellowship and connecting saints one to another. So we're supposed to equip, the church has been tasked to equip saints to send them out so they can go ahead and make disciples, or the church to make disciples and equip disciples to go out and do the same, and do likewise. All right, so that's the purpose of the church. So traditionally, this is what how things have looked. So traditionally, the church building has been used as the conduit to bring ministry to the people, right? So whether it's your youth ministry, your choir ministry, your marriage ministry, your evangelism ministry, whatever it is, the church building has been used as the primary conduit to take ministry to the people, right? The church building. So ministry, so everything is filtered through the building. So we have all our meetings, we have all of our trainings, things like that. It's all done within the church building. That's how it's been traditionally. The church is the go-between. The church building is the go-between, right? But now, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the government shutdowns, we have been put in a situation where we are not legally allowed to be inside of our buildings doing worship gatherings or other types of events like that. And so we've been forced in this situation to try to figure out how to get ministry to the people or to the community without using our primary means of doing it, which is the church building. And so now the church has been placed in this situation where we're kind of navigating unfamiliar terrain, and the fact that we have to use use the internet as now the primary means of taking ministry to the people. So now everybody at the same time, we're all in the situation where we have to live broadcast. Almost all churches that I know of are doing some form of live streaming, or maybe they're doing Zoom conferencing or things like that. But either way, the internet is being the primary means of ministering to people. Okay, give me 1 second before I switch to my next slide. And again, if you have any questions or anything like that, please put them in the chat. And then once I get done going through this presentation, then I'll answer as many questions as time permits. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to. Okay, thank you. So what we've seen now is the rise of the online church. The online church. And so the online church at this time, it's like let's do it this way. It's basically the live streaming of worship services. Most people are using Facebook, YouTube, or their website to basically bring the gospel to the world. So back when our church, Mount Calvary Missionary Baptist Church here in Sacramento, California, when we first started live streaming, we were using Ustream, and this was back in the year 2013. Then about 2017, we started doing our broadcast via Facebook, which is the primary means of doing the broadcast now. And back when we started doing it, we did live streaming more so as like a secondary means of sharing what was going on in the service. So the primary audience were those who were in the building, and we live streamed just in case there was one or two people who didn't make it to church that morning, so they'd be able to participate and be a part of the worship service. So they wouldn't miss out on anything, right? And so those people who were watching online were basically secondary guests to the worship service. So the worship service was being presented to those who were in the building, while those who were watching online were secondary guests. A lot of times they weren't even acknowledged. There was no effort given to find out who they were. It was just they were tasked with going ahead and tuning in if they happened to miss service. Okay. And so what I liken it to is if you've ever been to a concert and then also watch a concert, maybe on YouTube or on TV or something like that, it's a completely different feeling you get when viewing it. When you're actually inside of the concert hall watching the concert, you can feel it. It's engaging. It's a whole experience. But then while you're watching it on TV or online or something like that, it's like you're a secondary audience member, and so it has a completely different feeling. And so what you see is with online church is it's a one-way conversation. It's the church communicating to members. It's the church communicating to the people. We're sending a message through the internet via live stream or Zoom or whatever to we're sending this message out to the people, but they're not able to communicate back, right? So primarily with online church, you have the live streaming. Then also we take up our online giving, which now that's our primary way of raising money now is through online giving, due to the situation. But what it does is it fosters the equipping of believers, but not the connecting of believers. Right. So again, pastor giving it's a one-way conversation, giving information to the people. They're not able to ask questions or communicate back because it's just virtual. So that's online church. And before I get to this, so that's why so with online church, what it's done also is it's leveled the playing field, right? So since now most churches across this country are not actually going into the building, we're all basically in the same situation. We're all having church online, right? But what that does is it's created a sort of, I guess you can say, competition. I'll just use that word, a sort of a competition, because back in the pre-COVID, people came to the building, and so it was hard for them to be in your building and to be at another ministry all at the same time, right? But now because of this situation, we're all being online, people now have options, right? I'll put it this way. So when I get up in the morning, about maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock, I pick up my phone, I get on Facebook, and I tune into to Mount Rose Church in Dallas, Texas, right? And then so I'm usually on just a time to hear Bishop Thomas preach. Then once Bishop Thomas gets done preaching, I turn on the Friendship West Church in Dallas, Texas, to hear Pastor Haynes preach. Then after that, I'm on my way to Mount Calvary for church, and we have service there. Then once I get done with service at Mount Calvary, if I have enough time to get out early enough, I tune in to St. Mark Baptist Church, where Pastor Burrell is the pastor. You know what I'm saying? So now, where in time past, I would be a part of one service, by 12 o'clock hour, I've not been a part of 4. So now, not only that, with the leveling the playing field and us having competition, so now Mount Calvary Missionary Baptist Church has the task of now competing, if you will, with major ministry and major pastoral personalities that are in this nation, right? Because now I can, if I choose to, I can tune into some of my preaching heroes, right? So if I want to, I can tune into John Terrace Tate, who's Pastor Tate, who's in at Mount Moriah in LA. I can tune into him, or I can go ahead. I can tune into Pastor John Adolph, who's in Beaumont. I can tune into to Pastor Dr. Kelly Chapman, who's in Detroit. I can tune into Jacksonville, Florida, where Pastor Rudolph McKissick is. I can tune into all these people. I have access to all these people, all these different ministries and these different pastors, because of the fact that we're all in this level playing field. So now we have the task of basically competing, right? So this is why I think it's so very important that we get out of this thing of just simply having online church and start being the church online. Because everybody is having church online, and everybody has options of who they can choose to have church with. I would even venture to say, and I know this because I've sat at home and watched church before, is that many people are tuning into your particular ministry on Sundays. They're going to yours, seeing what's going on, and they're clicking and going somewhere else. And they're clicking back, and they're kind of jumping around and things like that because we have that option, right? So I believe that we need to switch from an online church model to a virtual church model, and there's a distinction. So the virtual church is essentially your ministry projecting who you are to the world using the internet, while still fulfilling the church's purpose of connecting, equipping, serving, and sending. All right. And so this is a way it's a model that it facilitates a three-way conversation. So it's a church to the member back to the church, and then the church member to the church member. Okay. So I have a little something I came up with is of a way of how we can achieve this, and I call it the faith model or the faith method. Right? Faith, focus, authenticity, intent, thought, and heart. Focus, authenticity, intent, thought, and heart. And I believe this method, if we utilize this method in creating our own personal, the virtual church, our own version of what the virtual church looks like for our ministry, I believe it can be very effective. And this is why. So faith, first is F, which is focus, right? So when we're talking about virtual ministry, we first need to have the conversation with ourselves of what is our target audience, our primary demographic. Now, I know everybody would say that the gospel is for everybody, the church is for everybody, right? And that's a fact. But one thing I found out is that every church has something that they do better than others, or have something that's I won't say that, but something that's their primary strength and things like that, right? So there's some churches that have strong youth or young adult ministries, and that's what they have, right? They have very strong youth or young adult ministries. There's some that are more of a family church, right? So they have more of a family atmosphere. There's some that are primarily comprised of senior saints, right? And so if your ministry primary audience that you're usually targeting is senior saints, right? While we should try to reach the young adults, sometimes we need to make sure that we're focused and realizing what our target audience is, or target demographic is. Why? Because I believe that every church has been, we all have our own different personalities and our own different, like I said, focuses and things like that. And so we should be focused on doing what we do best and going with our strengths, because, that's what, as far as impacting, that's what's going to be most effective. Right? So that's focus. Authenticity. Be yourself and project who you are as a ministry. And this goes along with focus, and again, realizing who you are. If your church is known for, during your worship services, what your members and what you all are accustomed to is singing hymns, right? But you come into the virtual space and decide, well, now since we're in the virtual space, we're going to start doing contemporary music. But traditionally you've done hymns and things like that. It's not authentic. And so a lot of times when it comes across as being inauthentic, I even go so far as to say this. I've watched some live streams, and I've seen some, preachers who have been, on screen, preaching or teaching, and they look uncomfortable because they're not being themselves. They're altering themselves in order to fit that virtual space. Try to, to try to project what they believe that people want to see or people are used to seeing in a virtual space, right? But anybody, especially your members who go to your church, will know that, okay, this is not pastor. This is not how pastor is. This is not the pastor that we know and love. But instead, he's trying to be somebody else. So just be yourself. And when you get to the virtual space, be sure to be yourself as an individual and also within your ministry. Project who you are as a ministry. Be yourself. Be authentic, right? Another part of it is intent. Have a goal or purpose. Don't just do it just to do it. And this is one of the things I'm a little worried about with regard to online ministry, is because, to me personally, it has started to get to the point where now it's comfortable. And so now it's just becoming a thing that we do every week because it's our obligation to do that every week, right? And so if we're not careful, online ministry will begin to get stale and monotonous because we're just simply doing it just to do it. Eventually, if we're not careful, it'll lose its zest, its zeal. We'll start losing zeal for it, or it'll start losing its zest because we have just gotten to the habit of just doing it, but are no longer being intentional, right? Okay, I'll put it like this. The goal of the church is we are supposed to reach out. We're supposed to evangelize. We're supposed to strive that people will come to be saved, to equip saints, to develop believers, to make disciples, right? That's supposed to be our responsibility. But one of the reasons why I say that I'm a little worried about the intent is because there's plenty of situations where I've seen during online ministry where there is nothing set in place to actually, I'll just put it this way, there's nothing in place to intake someone who through the live broadcast chooses to accept Christ as personal Savior. There's no way to connect. There's no way to take the information. There's no way to connect. There's no way to introduce them to the ministry. There's no way to create a pathway for them to get, get into the discipling process or anything like that. And we, are kind of missing that aspect of it. So we have to be intentional. Just don't do it just to do it. We need to have a goal. Have a goal or purpose for what we're doing. All right. Thought. So be creative. Think outside the box. So in thinking outside the box, one of the things, I'll move on. When we first did the live streaming, I said I realized that there are some people who were doing their services through Zoom. Now, me being a millennial and me having my own little way of thinking, I thought that didn't make sense to me, right? I was like, okay, it needs to be online, it needs to be on Facebook so that we can reach all these people and so everybody can see and all that, right? And that's until I actually I was a part of a Zoom service, right? I was a part of the Zoom service, and what was cool about it is that now you have all these people who can't come in the same building but are able to come on the same broadcast, each other's faces, and be able to interact and have service together. And what was really cool is after it was over, then they had basically a fellowship hour where it's kind of like, how after service is over, how we sat around and talk. They actually had that via Zoom, so they're able to communicate and spend time with each other and catch up with each other, all within this setting of this virtual service. And so I thought that was pretty creative and kind of out of the box, right? Then also be mindful, weigh the effectiveness of what you're doing. Let's see, I'll do it like this. If you are having live broadcast, I'm just going to say how I'm going to say it. If you're having live broadcasts, and every week you notice that your live broadcast on Facebook, and Facebook being your primary means of sharing, of doing your broadcast. And if you look on Facebook and you're used to at service having 30, 40, 50 people on service in the building on Sundays, but your live broadcast is maybe 1, 2, 3, or 4 people watching, then we need to go ahead and be mindful in the way, the effectiveness of the way that we're delivering the service through the virtual space. Because maybe you have to consider, okay, maybe my membership is not a Facebook audience. Maybe they don't do Facebook. Maybe Zoom might be better. Maybe conference call might be better. But it's important that as we're trying to navigate the virtual space and be the virtual church, that we're always mindful and weigh the effectiveness of what we're doing, so that way we can make the greatest impact and be the most effective. Then also, H, heart, have a care and concern for the people. Be sure to still remember that our job is to love on people, encourage people, and meet needs. All right. So here is what the virtual church looks like. These are our three, in my opinion, the three means of us, or the three tools that we use in order to use to be the virtual church, right? That's our worship broadcast, which is, worship broadcast usually, like I said before, is the live stream, it's online giving, right? Also video conferencing. Video conferencing we usually, use for, a lot of us are using for our Bible studies, sometimes ministry meetings and things like that. But also, matter of fact, let me do this. So with the worship broadcast, what we typically see is option one. It's the broadcast of basically what's going on in the building, and the person, what's going on in the building is broadcasted online. So basically those who are watching online, for the most part, are secondary viewers, right? The service is being presented to those who are in the building. Those who are online are just simply tuning in to see the broadcast, or to catch what's going on with those in the building, right? So the other option is to create a worship experience that's prepared specifically for a virtual audience, something that actually directly engages and speaks to the virtual audience, right? I've seen this through some people just do. I've seen plenty of examples of this. Bishop Clark has usually that's how his services are. His services are, it's him. It's probably sitting in a room with the background, and he's speaking directly to the camera and speaking directly to those who are watching online. Okay, so both work. It just depends on what works best for you. But I'm just presented two options. All right. And then we already talked about this, about the video conferencing, that we use it for Bible study, Sunday school, ministry meetings, small groups. But also, one thing I would like to suggest that pastors may want to consider, one of the benefits of being able to go to the local church is having direct access and interaction with your pastor. And so maybe if you're in a situation where your members are not seeing you as much as they're used to, maybe consider using video conferencing as a way to have a pastoral connection or pastoral counseling with individual members. And I think it may encourage your members to be able to see and interact one-on-one with their pastor like they're used to doing back when everybody's in the building. All right. And then social media is basically the way that the virtual ministry can interact with the world. And using social media, we can do things like we can do evangelism, we can do outreach, of course, advertising, promotion, which is primarily what we've used social media for, but we shouldn't focus on this. And then also engaging with the community and creating a sense of community for the membership, right? And so we use Facebook, some people use Instagram, some may use Twitter, some may use Tumblr, something like that. An app that Pastor Wyatt could probably share about with you is the Band app, which I think is a great app to use for trying to do all these things within the virtual church. All right, so here's more of expanded what the virtual church looks like. So we know about the primary means of communicating, which is worship, broadcast, and video conferencing, and social media. Now, something I would like to suggest as far as enhancing the worship broadcast is, if you look down here, it says virtual greeters, discipleship team, and live prayer. So, because again, virtual greeters. What I'd like to suggest to those who are doing, if you're not already doing it, is assign or actually solicit volunteers for people who would like to be a part of the online broadcast. And their job is simply to, as they see people come into the online broadcast, they would welcome them to the online broadcast. Just kind of like, so picture, again, we're talking about a virtual church. So picture yourself walking into the church doors. When the first thing you do, you come into the contact of an usher or greeter. And they say they welcome you to the church and help you have your seat, right? So taking that and incorporating that into your worship broadcast, having virtual greeters, those who are there to greet you as you come into the broadcast, and then also to kind of monitor the broadcast and see if there's any questions going on, or if there's anybody asking about more information about your ministry and things like that, or maybe somebody who needs some, post something that we show that needs some kind of encouragement or something like that, and them being available and to go ahead and to reach out and contact those people. Also, again, your discipleship team, having them prepared and having them activated, because again, we're still, even though we're in the virtual space, we still preach so that the gospel can be heard, so that souls can be saved, right? But again, we should have something set in place so that we can collect information and connect with those who are, through our virtual broadcast, are choosing to come to Christ. So figuring out a way to activate your discipleship team so that they can be prepared to disciple those or counsel those who would like to come to know Christ as personal Savior, or would like to unite with your ministry through the virtual space. And not only that, but then also making live prayer available to those who come on to who are part of your broadcast. Okay. Everything else I kind of touched on. Let me keep moving because I'm running low on time. And we kind of already talked about this, about live stream. Then also prayer. Something I'll show you that we have and that we've used in times past in our broadcast is we insert a link for prayer requests. Let me see if it'll come up. And it's just simple form. We just put the link in the chat of our broadcast. And if somebody has a prayer request, they can just click on here, put in some information, hit submit, and then it goes to the email box of our prayer ministry, and so that way they can make contact. Okay, let me go back. All right. So let me. I got a couple minutes, just about 2-3 minutes. So what I'd like to encourage us, just in closing, is to embrace the hybrid model. This is the new norm, right? So in times past, prior to the internet, or even the beginning days of the internet was the information superhighway. That's what we used to gather information. But if you wanted to do some banking, you went to the bank. If you wanted to buy some music, you went to the record store. If you wanted to buy some clothes, you went to the mall. If you wanted to place a bet, you went to a bookie. If you wanted to, do those things, all those things were handled by, different, like, brick and mortar type of places. But now, since the internet has come, when's the last time you, bought a CD? Nowadays, our primary means of TV and getting movies is online, right? And so once online has gotten involved in all these different spaces, it's completely changed things and created the new normal. So that now, again, most people, they go online to do most of their banking, right? So we need to embrace a hybrid model. The hybrid model is when we come back into the church, we need to realize the fact that the virtual space is not going away. So we need to create a model that encourages and supports those who are coming into the building, but also create something that is intentional that encourages those who are going to be on virtual, right? And so let's go beyond Sunday morning. Church live stream is just the beginning, right? Don't go back to normal. All right. And so this is, I believe, my last slide. So the old way, our metric of measuring our success was church attendance, right? That was our metric. How many people were actually in the seats is how successful we were doing. The more people that, just in general, that's what we kind of looked at. We looked at how many people are in the building, and that's how we measure, how effective we were, how things were going. And the way we did it, the how of it, I got to spotlight myself. And so the how of it was through the Sunday service. And the what was to love God, to love people, and to make disciples. That was the mission of the church. But the new way, again, looking at the hybrid model, is the metric no longer can be about how many people are in the seats, because right now most of us don't have anybody in the seats. So we can't use that as a metric, nor can we use that amount of views that we have on Facebook as a metric, because One thing you'll learn about the views on there is that the views account for 3-second views. I believe it's 3-second views, 10-second views, and 1-minute views, right? And so the bulk of the views that you have, if you have 1,000 views, the bulk of your views are 3-second views. That means somebody scrolled, it popped up on their timeline, and they kept scrolling. That's 3 seconds, right? So no longer can it be simply a measurement of numbers as a metric, but more so in of next steps. So because we want to have a church that's full of active participants, whether it's they're coming into the building or they are a part online, virtually. We want a church full of active participants. So not passive spectators. So next steps measures all week long, not simply who's sitting on the pew on Sunday morning. And so the hybrid model is this. So instead of just being concerned about that 1 or 2 hours that we meet on Sunday morning, we need to start activating and start doing ministry throughout the week, right? We've mastered now that 1 or 2 hours, but now in the virtual church, we should figure out how we can minister to people throughout those additional 167, 166 hours of the week. And we can do that again in the virtual space, using social media, using video conferencing, using things like that. I've seen a pastor who has his morning prayer, instead of doing a conference call, he does it on Facebook every morning. And every morning he has 40 to 50 people that are participating, submitting prayer requests and all that on Facebook, right? So making better use of the additional 166 hours of the week. And the what is still the same. The mission of the church is still to love God, to love people, and to make disciples. Okay. So I'm not going to go into that, but the importance is connectivity, connecting members to one another, and also the reach by embracing the virtual space. You have the opportunity to take your church's ministry outside of just your neighborhood and your immediate surroundings. And now people from all across this world have access to it. So now it's not just, now you have the opportunity to now reach and make disciples in other cities, other states, and other countries. All right. So here's just some additional resources if you have any questions about online giving, social media, or live streaming, things like that. Here are some platforms that you can use for your online giving, social media, or live streaming. I'm more than willing to provide you all with any information if you have any questions or need any assistance with setting up some of these things. I'm more than willing to assist you all with that. And I'd love to be able to put our heads together to come up with some creative and innovative ways of doing ministry online. It's something I'm very passionate about. Let's see. I think I have one slide left, I think, if it goes to it. No, that was it.
Thank you, Reverend Wyatt. Does anyone have any questions? You want to put it in the chat real quick, and we can do that. Also, Reverend Wyatt, can you please put in the chat your email, because there may be some who want to contact you after this is over, because one of the things that he does do consulting to help churches to set up, whether it's be more effective in your video presentation or the other different areas that he talked about in terms of giving and all of that. Please reach out to him, contact him, and he'd be glad to help. And yes, so he's challenged me. One of the things we were doing when I was doing the invitation, I would invite people. I said, if you don't have a church home, please, if you're in another area, please find a church in your local area where you can, join a church. Where he ticked me off and told me I need to do something different. And so what I begin to do is I begin to engage people who may not be in this city or even in this state. And I begin to tell them, well, until you find a church home, because a lot of people don't go to church because of whatever reason, but I try to engage them to engage with the ministry through our Bible study, through our online presence. Reach out to us and let us know so that you can be a part of our Bible study, be a part of our ministry until such time that you do find a ministry to go to in your local area. So that was one of the reasons, and it took me a couple of months to get convinced of that. But then after I began to think about it, it made sense. So again, if you're interested in seeking any more information about that, please contact him. And when I say he's helped a lot of churches get more adapt towards a virtual church, please contact him. He will be glad to help you. All right. Thank you, Reverend Wyatt. We're going to take
Just a,
2 minutes.
I'm sorry, just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
I think there was a couple questions that you want me
Oh,
to.
go ahead.
Okay. So first question I see, let's see. So it says, I found out recently that having Bible study on Facebook Live and Zoom presents challenges when advertising prior to the event. With that unwanted, would try to, okay, infiltrate the Zoom stream. Is there a way to prevent that from happening without cutting out people that want to join in the real Bible study? So the good thing about Zoom is set up for, they've put certain things in place to give, for security measures. So one thing I suggest that, everyone use when it comes to, for two things. One, I don't give out the Zoom information to everybody. For me personally, I usually put that out to the church members. So we encourage and invite church members to be a part of the Zoom conference to, be able to interact and things like that. So we don't put our Zoom information out. And that's just because of that situation where there are some who see it online and will come in and try to do something crazy. We've had it in our Facebook broadcast where people have come and started posting crazy stuff within the Facebook comment section. So I would just say, just make the Zoom available to those who are part of your ministry, and then when you make that available to them, you can create a setup for a waiting room so that you kind of screen and see who's in the waiting room before you let them into the meeting. That'll kind of cut down on that type of thing. And then from the Zoom meeting, take your Zoom meeting and then broadcast that to Facebook, so those who are online will be able to watch it. To watch the broadcast. I don't know if that helps the and then, and another thing you can also do, Zoom also has a way where you can have people pre-register to be a part of the broadcast. I'm sorry, and then let me also add this. And also with your Zoom meetings, you can go into your settings for your meetings, and you can make sure that people come into the Zoom. When they come in with their cameras off and with their microphones muted, so that just in case there is somebody who is coming in to wreak havoc, they won't be able to do anything unless you allow them to. Okay, so that's how we have it set up today. So none of you can actually just turn on your mic right now. I'd have to go ahead and ask you to unmute. So you have the option of setting that up. Okay, let me see. I saw another one. One said, asked about reaching seniors who are not tech savvy. Now that is one thing that's presented some issues. One thing that I suggest, especially if you have a strong senior group of seniors that are in your ministry, but they're not very tech savvy, that's one of the benefits of Zoom. Is Zoom can also be used for video conferencing and phone conferencing. So you can, if you have your services through your Zoom meeting, people can actually use their phone and just call into the Zoom meeting and use it as more of a video conference. And so that might be something that may be a little, maybe better for those who are not as tech savvy. So, I would say utilize Zoom and have them call in more as like a conference call. I've seen that work for seniors who are tech savvy. How to help a church that's tech challenge that is afraid of using Zoom. They are only comfortable with Facebook Live and free conference. And yeah, and that's, again, that's one of the things that's difficult to get over. We have certain things that we're more comfortable with, and we're a little skeptical about certain things. But that's why I say with things like Zoom has done a pretty good job of increasing their security protocols, so that now you either have to have a passcode in order to enter it, or you have to create a waiting room. And so that'll allow you to be able to screen those before you allow them into your meeting. But I do understand, that is a concern. Let's see. Describe how this technology can receive responses back from those who want to make a commitment to Christ. Does this depend on what technology pathway is available to you? That's a very good question. So there is a platform that there's a church. It's called Life Church. And so if you use YouVersion, Life Church is actually the church that created YouVersion. So they created a whole lot of free tools for churches to use. And so they created a platform. It's called Church Online Platform. And Church Online Platform is really cool because of the fact that it allows you to create moments So you basically can, while you're giving your invitation to discipleship, you can have somebody within your chat that can press click a button that basically polls the people in the chat and asks them, would you like to accept Christ as Savior? And then all they have to do, if they click yes, it basically raises their hand. And then that way you can have somebody else as a part of your ministry, your prayer team, take them into a private chat room and can go ahead and start, doing some counseling or at least gathering information so they can be reached on the phone. So that's pretty cool. Then also you can create forms either through Google or different kinds of services where you can actually create these forms that'll be like intake forms. So if somebody says, okay, I want to accept, so what I do is I usually post in our broadcast, if you'd like to accept Jesus Christ as personal Savior, join Mount Calvary Missionary Baptist Church, or request prayer, click this link. They click the link, they just ask for basic information, ask what their concern is, and they hit submit. And then within 24 to 48 hours, we're able to go ahead and contact them and connect with them. I hope that answered the question.
All right. It looks like what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do another training just probably for this so it can be expanded so we can get more information and be a little bit more helpful so we can and give time for everybody because we do have to get to the next speaker. But I want to thank Reverend Wyatt for the presentation. It was very helpful and enlightening to me. And I just happen to be here where I have two guys that are very tech savvy. And they're able to help me do all of this stuff. Matter of fact, no, they don't help me do it. They do it all. I just take the credit for it. That's all. That's what happened because I'm the pastor, but I thank God for them. So please reach out to him if you have any questions or if you want to expand it, get some more information. And then, like I said, the next thing is I'm going to make sure that hopefully with the next month or so, maybe even sooner, if we get enough interest to go ahead and do another training just on this issue of virtual church, because I think it is something that is very pressing, something that is very needed. And the last thing I wanted to say about the seniors, one of the things that I think we should make sure that we involved is grandkids, because grandkids can help those seniors get attached and connected on through social media and all of that kind of thing. And the other thing is, don't play those old folks cheap, because once they start getting engaged, they'll begin to see how easy it is. And a lot of times they will get more savvy than you think they will. So I would encourage you to reach out and challenge the grandkids to help grandma and them and all of that kind of thing. So again, God bless you, Reverend Wyatt. Thank you for your presentation. Let's take 1 minute. I need to get some water. Well, I got my water right here. So if you need to go ahead and take a quick break, we're going to close with our last presentation, which is we were dealing with preparation. Now we're going to do with presentation. Please pray for Bishop Clark. He has an incident that happened. He couldn't be here, but we have one of my good friends and brother, great preacher, great teacher, just awesome brother who's going to share with us. And I'll bring him on when we come back. So we'll take 1 minute break.